Well, I think what I'm taking away from this is really, truly the best way to be a successful entrepreneur is to see a problem that needs solving. And I think a lot of people need to understand that. Like, don't just run into a business willy-nilly. Understand if there's a market need for it, you know. But I'm sure that there are many other lessons that you've learned during your startup founder journey, you know, things that other entrepreneurs need to understand before they walk into an opportunity they think exists.
Yeah, and I think you got that right.
Yeah.
First of all, the question has always been, how do you identify a good idea that could become something that could be big, whether your objective is to make money or your objective is to have impact. And usually the best ideas I have learned are problems that you're facing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I was not solving anybody else's problem. I was solving my problem. Mm-hmm. A couple of things come into play when you find an idea that you want to execute that is personal to you.
Yeah.
One, it doesn't matter whether people give you money or they don't give you money. Mm-hmm. It's personal to you. You want to see this thing exist in the world. So you will sacrifice going for drinks, going to, watching Netflix and just think about it, read about it, because it's personal to you. You're excited about it. That literally is the best foundation for any idea. Mm-hmm. Because your motivation is intrinsic.
Right.
It is not about being validated. I mean, appearing on TechCrunch is amazing, CNN and Bloomberg and people seeing you, that's amazing. It's a really those are highlights. Mm-hmm. Those are not the depth of it. Mm-hmm. The depth of it is, it's yours, it's your DNA now, you own it. And even if it doesn't see the light of day, you're still happy because you spent time doing something that taught you new things, you experienced new things. I had not written code for almost 10 years properly. Mm-hmm. This was the first time I was actually writing code. So I had taken a class on Udemy, which I paid $14, Ruby on Rails.
Right.
So I had also contacted a young man who is now my head of engineering. He was about 24, 25 then, mm-hmm. and he was my mentor. And it was really tough on me. I mean, I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
Kid is half my age at that point, and he's teaching me coding, and he's tough on me. He's forcing me to read manuals and make references on the Rails documentation. Mm-hmm. And so there was all of that happening at the same time. So I was having a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing. Identify a problem that is personal to you.
Yeah.
And then when you solve it, you have a foundation which is literally you. So whether investors come in, when customers come and complain about something, you don't get irritated. You're happy to find a way to solve it for them. Mm-hmm. When you make a bit of progress and success, one new user joins and pays, you are really excited. 19,000 shillings from an idea is good money. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that comes out from looking for ideas. The other problem is you end up imagining a problem and imagining a solution and building it and getting frustrated that nobody else wants to use it. Mm-hmm. Because you imagine the problem or you saw the problem. Again, not all problems, need a solution.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes, not all solutions have a problem. Like there's a way, there are things you want the problem you see and you think it needs to be sorted out, but actually, literally, mm-hmm. nobody really cares even if it's a problem. You don't have to implement a solution mm-hmm. for it. People are happy living with that particular challenge in their lives. It's neither here nor there. It's part of just life. Mm-hmm. You get it? Yeah. So, but other people now come up with solutions to problems they either imagine, okay, so they create a solution first, and then they try to figure out whether it solves a problem,
Right.
Yeah. So there's a twisted part right over there.
Okay. Well, I think for me, the most significant business that you've built that is an actual problem solver is Kassel, right? Where did that come from?
So back in, this must be a while ago, I used to be a freelancer mm-hmm. On a platform called Scriptlance. So Fiverr and Scriptlance, I had accounts, I think 2009, yes. So I was doing short gigs where you pay me 500 bob to implement a software for you or launch something for you. I get 500 bob, Fiverr would do $5 to say, for example, deploy a CMS for you. That would take me about an hour, 2 hours, mm-hmm. Go to Joomla, take it, deploy it on the, so I get 500 bob. I was doing that on Fiverr, or you'd get, say, Fiverr was $5 type of gigs. I don't know whether that has changed. I'd do Scriptlance. Mm-hmm. And Scriptlance, I would get paid for small gigs as well. And I loved Scriptlance so much. It was a small company. I don't even know where they were. I could always find the right engineers to help me with a project. I get a project, find the engineers on the same platform, we deliver it. And I really wanted to build that for Africa. Mm-hmm. And so it took me almost 4 years to build it. Because I did not have the engineering skills at that point necessary. So I could get away with engineering, but I never went into the depth of it. And then it was really difficult back then because there are not as many resources as there are today. You didn't find manuals, YouTube videos, you didn't find Udemy or Coursera to provide the courses for you to learn to do engineering better. So you either went to engineering school or you had books. And I had not done that. I'm a self-taught engineer. So I drew it a lot in some of my books, in my old diaries. There's a lot of drawings of how it could work until I met this guy called Billy Odero. He had joined NILAB, and after being in NILAB for a couple of years, I said, let's build this. So 2014, we started building it. And then as soon as we did the version 1, Billy got offered a full scholarship to Cambridge, and so he left for a year.
Right.
So he died. And then he came back again, and then we built it better, applied to Y Combinator 2016, got into the fellowship program, and now we were validated about that. So the idea was very simple. Have small businesses post jobs that include logo design, web design, brochure design, things simple as that, and then we connect them to engineers who could come over and offer that solution. The problem with that was massive.
Okay.
Extremely. We could spend an hour discussing the challenges of building a gig platform in the African market. And so Kassel really never took off. So it's kind of stagnated for a while. Now we are rethinking about how to redeploy it again. It has about 60,000 freelancers across Africa, but still not, it's doing about 10 to 15% of what's supposed to do.
Okay.
And now we need to see how we can change that.
Okay.
But that was the genesis of Kassel. Of course, ideas again for the name was, hey, everybody you ask in Nairobi, what are you doing? They say Kassel too.
Yeah.
Kassel too.
Yeah.
So I was like, kila mtu ni Kassel too. Then let's call it kassel.com. It just stuck as a name, and that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense, But so you've mentioned the Y Combinator a couple of times, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But what I want to know is, because obviously tech businesses are raised on, funding platforms. That's where you get your money from fundraising, from literally, begging, pleading, asking, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So what is it like getting into the Y Combinator? First of all, what is a Y Combinator?
So the reason I'm always excited about YC, Y Combinator for short, is the fact that Y Combinator is what inspired NILAB.
Yep.
Yes. So back again to NILAB, which was when I met Tony Ndongo, NILAB was a co-working space. I remember I'd been invited for a visit to the iHub, and the iHub didn't even have seats. They didn't even have seats. They even had us one desk, and there was nothing else. The floor was not done. There was a funny curtain that was separating two sections. Pete's Coffee was operating under the stairs. Pete was selling coffee under the stairs himself. Yeah. Now Pete has about 6-7 branches. Yeah. And I was super excited about the idea of meeting just other people who were like me. They just got nerds and geeks. So it was really cool to just find your tribe there. I was so excited. I even offered to bring some of my seats from my office. I had a small office in town, in Uganda House. And then I met Tony Ndongo, and then across the hall was NILAB, the same exact space, just the opposite side of the building. And so Tony, we talked with Tony, and Tony had he's very passionate, he's very energetic, he's a very good salesperson, and had business development skills. And I think by the third time we were having a conversation, Tony was like, join me, let's do this. And so we started doing it. Actually, initially, it was a social media space. Back then, Facebook and Twitter were just starting off. And we were being hired by NGOs to go train, say, farmers in Uganda or Rwanda on how to use social media to post what they're doing so that they can attract more people to see what they're doing. Some of these NGOs, I think, was it Oxfam and HIVOS? Some of those organizations were working with some of different organizations across Africa. So they'd hire us to create social media strategies for people who were not aware what social media was. Right. So I literally got paid to teach people how to use Facebook and Twitter at that point, yes. And it was very exciting, Then we said, let's turn it into a co-working space where people can come and work. And then I decided to go to, I thought to myself, I really love the space I'm in, and now I'm getting exposed to the space in Silicon Valley, because I've been reading TechCrunch and Mashable at that point. I said, let me go to California and just learn. I mean, the truth is, if I don't see, the vision has something to do with seeing, and if I don't see, I'll just be building out of imagination. And so I had a bit of money saved, and it was my second time to go to the US, and so I flew to California and accidentally visited Y Combinator.
Okay,
Yes.
accidentally.
Yeah, I remember Joe Musharu then was working for Google. I'd reached out to him. He did not respond to me because I wanted to see Google, I wanted to see Twitter, I wanted to see all these big companies. I didn't want to go inside. I wanted to see the building from outside, so I didn't want security chasing me away. So I was asking, hey, can you introduce me to somebody at Google? I can see what Google is.
Yeah.
Google is a building, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there and see the search engine somewhere. And I had taken a train and a bus, and I was at Google Mountain View, and I was trying to go back to San Francisco, the city. And I remember the security guy came over and chased me because I was using their Wi-Fi from the loan.
Ah.
And then a friend I was chatting with a friend from the Netherlands called Luc Dupont.
Okay.
And Luc said, hey, one of my board members called Matt Nitzberg really lives in California, in San Francisco, and he's actually near you. We were just talking. I'll ask him to come with his car and pick you. And so the gentleman came and picked me, and then he was driving me around, and he said, I asked him, do you know where Y Combinator is? He's like, yeah. So I can actually show you. We'll drive outside there, I'll show you. Then we drove outside there, said, hey, we can go in actually. And then he tells me this story about how he made his millions. It's like, the founder of Y Combinator and me was working in the same company, very small, I think less than 10 people. And that's how we built the first company called ViaWeb and sold it to Yahoo for $40 million.
Wow.
So I'll go in and show you. But he rarely meets people.
Okay.
But then when I walked in, he was actually there in a building just like this, and he was fixing something. And then I introduced myself, and we had a 1-hour conversation about what he had done. So he inspired me so much, came back to Nairobi and tried to replicate what he was doing without the knowledge. I only had 1 hour worth of knowledge.
Okay.
I mean, so for the first 5 years, Naila ran from that 1 hour of knowledge and every other research I had.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But then, once again, what does a Y Combinator do?
So if you think about what NILAB is,
Yeah.
that's what Y Combinator is, but in a larger scale.
Okay.
So NILAB we came back, and all we had to do was bring startups, smart people in the same room who are building different solutions, and try to teach them how to do this from the knowledge we are gaining.
Right.
What Y Combinator does is pick the smartest people they can find and invest money in them. Okay, so they'll say, well, you're building this podcast called The Failure Effect. Great. Now pitch to us. Tell us why, what, how, when, where. And they would go they give you $20,000, which is 2 million shillings or whatever it is now. And you have a 90-day period. You don't go to the office, but you have dinners every week. You have meetings every week. I think those meetings are actually in his backyard, in his house. And then from there, after 90 days, he would bring his investor friends, and now you can raise another $200,000, $300,000, okay, to keep on scaling this, because those 90 days you're supposed to achieve specific metrics that can make another investor interested, and they will tell you what the investors will be looking for. So the first time they did this was, I think, 2005, and when he was telling me, so the person who's built, say, for example, ChatGPT right now, Sam Altman, was on batch 1. Yes, those were batch 1 guys.
Wow.
Yes, so I'm on batch winter 21. They were on batch either summer or winter 05. Okay, so we are alums in the same school. So Brian Chesky, the guy who built Airbnb, is I think winter or summer 2010, 2011. And so literally all the companies you might imagine, Dropbox, Flutterwave, Paystack, Kidato, Airbnb, Heroku, Cruise, the self-driving car. I could mention multiple companies that you probably use their products today. We are all Y Combinator, ChatGPT, so Y Combinator company, and so that's how Y Combinator grew. So twice a year, it would bring the smartest people they could find, and 90 days teach them how to build the product better, pitch to investors, raise more funding, and then now go build the companies, and they stay with you for the rest of your life, teaching you, investing in you, providing resources for you, and things like that. Today, I think the first time they took about 20 people or 40 people, I can't remember the number, but today they take about 600 a year, 300, and they invest about, I think they moved from 150,000. They're investing $500,000 for each company. So you can do the maths. Each batch is 300 people times about $500,000, which is for 50, 60 million Kenya shillings. And so all these companies go, they exit. So there's about a bunch of billion-dollar companies that have come from there. There are a bunch of $100 million companies that have come from there. Bunch of companies that have IPO'd as well. Very many. The billion-dollar companies, of course, have IPO'd or acquisitions and all of that. Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because you've applied for the Y Combinator program 6 times and been admitted twice. So what happened with the other 4 applications, do you think?
The first, so I can't remember them right now exactly what happened, but I mean, of course, the 4 were rejections. And the first time was not in the Y Combinator core program. It was in what they called Y Combinator fellowship program, which is a lower version of the core program. And the second time was in the core program, which is where I am in right now. So there were rejections. They're like, I'm sorry, you do not qualify this time. I'm sorry, you do not qualify this time.
Yeah.
Oh, here, you have an interview. I'm sorry, you didn't pass the interview. I'm sorry, you don't qualify this time. Then, oh, you qualify in this one. And then, so there was, I'm sorry, or you qualify for a fellowship. And then we went for an interview. You don't, after the interview. So there were rejections from just application on email. And 2 of them, one was accepted to the fellowship. One was a rejection from the interview itself, so the second level, and then the one that we got accepted, which was winter 2021.
Right.
Yeah. So Y Combinator interview is very interesting. Back then, they would fly you if you got accepted in an interview. They'd fly you to San Francisco to their offices for a 10-minute interview.
Wow. What?
10 minutes. It literally is 8 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you have 10 minutes to convince them to invest in you. And if you come there and you find people who have come from India, China, Russia, around the world for that 10 minutes. Okay? Yes. So you walk in 10 minutes. It's 8 minutes because at the 8th minute somebody comes and knocks the door, and now you have 2 minutes to wrap up, and then go back, wait. By 8 o'clock tonight, you will know whether you're in or out. If you're out, you go get drunk or cry, and then you fly back home.
Which is actually, I mean, how did you handle it? Because I'm sure by the time you get to interview stage, you're fairly hopeful that this will go through. I mean, you've come this far.
Oh, you still know, because you've read stories of people who have been rejected. You've seen their tweets. Your chance is still super small.
Okay, all right.
Y Combinator has a 1.5 or 3.5 chance of getting it, which is like you have a better chance of joining Harvard or Stanford or whatever than you have of getting into IC. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and there's like 20,000 plus applications every 2 cohorts, so that's 40,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they will only take 300 to 600 people, so can you imagine your chances are even, the numbers are lower.
Yeah.
So that 10 minutes is you have to prepare. Like literally every second counts, okay? Every second counts to tell your story. You walk in there. There are no long formalities of, how was your flight? It's, hi, where you are? Hi, what are you building?
Yeah.
That's the second question. First is, hi, what are you building? And then say, I'm building failure effect. I have had 5-10 years experience in media, and this is why, and this is a problem, this is a solution, this is our market, this is how much progress we've made. And then we try to deliver as much information in very short sentences as possible, and there are 4 people. One of them is the guy who built Gmail. The other guy is the guy who built what? And you look at their profile. This guy built Gmail. So I think he interviewed me once, and it was pretty stressful.
Okay, I'm so sorry. And yet, because your current project, Kidato, is a Y Combinator project, which means there must have been some secret sauce to you handling the rejections. So that's what I'd like to know. Like, how do you get around that so that you can get back in the game and do it again?
I think we flew with Billy to San Francisco, and we booked ourselves in we didn't have money, so we booked ourselves in a hostel. And the funny part about this story is that hostel has 4 beds, right?
Yeah.
So we both got the lower bunk beds, but Billy had this guy who got the top bunk bed. And first of all, you're really stressed, right, about the interview you're about to go for. But the guy who got the bunk bed on top, for some reason, he used to wear skirts. And so...
Is that the the guy that's social media famous. There's a gentleman who's always wearing these nice pencil skirts.
I don't even know who
Okay.
he was. I mean, like this were people, hippies, were traveling across. They're doing their thing, living in hostels. So I remember the next morning, my co-founder wakes up, looks at me, and says, "Bro, we are not staying here any other night." This guy swings his leg over, and Billy has to deal with all that chaos. And so we had to move to stay in a different hotel. And so anyway, so we got us because we were paying $30 a night, right? It's 3-4K a night, and so you don't have money to spend, and you're hoping. Anyway, when we ended up there. When we were rejected, actually, we went to a bar with the other people who were rejected.
Yeah.
And so because we made friendships as we were waiting outside to go for the interview, and we just got drunk.
Okay. It's a good
We
strategy.
got drunk. We were all so sad. We were also, it was really heartbreaking. You could feel the energy of people trying to just psych themselves up, because you also know people who got accepted, and we knew their lives would change.
Yeah.
And so along the way, you get used to the idea of, the email of rejection has come. Yeah. Okay. Great. So what? You know. Yeah. And when you get accepted, so you really go out and celebrate, because you know that now you've just joined one of the most impactful network you can be part of. But that is also a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
If the person if you went to a high school and there are people who were from 4 and you're from 1, were Brian Chesky's who built billion-dollar companies, and within your class there are people who's going to build billion-dollar companies, then you have no option to fail.
Right.
Failure you cannot blame anybody else if you fail. It's just yourself. And that is pressure that is absolutely probably the most pressure I've ever had in my life.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is 2 years ago.
What? So you're probably still just, well, obviously you've gotten over it because it's working.
You don't.
No, you haven't?
You don't. How do you? You still have to build a company that matches your classmates. There's still that thing about you that you're always competing with other people without even realizing. It's just the idea of you getting past the fact that you're competing with them, and now you're competing with your own self. You're an older version of yourself, that it starts to reduce. But still at the back of your mind, you know that if you make it like the other people made it, you'll be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
So the pressure is still there to make this work. It's just that it changes form, and it stops being about them. It becomes about, your own achievements. But, like you can't say, I don't feel pressure when I look at a Y Combinator company that was in the same batch with me, now raising their Series A, which is $10 or $20 million.
Yeah.
You feel a little, oh my goodness, what am I doing wrong? What should I do better? Things like that.
Okay.